person that you're, have committed to. So today we're talking about 5 keys for communication. And these are things that I think all of us kind of deep down inside know, or we can recognize, but we forget how important, how powerful they are when we employ them in our relationships. So let's just jump in. All right. So the first thing is the fact that communication operates on 2 levels. Okay, so you have your verbal communication, which we're communicating right now. I'm talking to you right now. And then there's nonverbal. Some say, and I have a tendency to agree, some say that nonverbal communication goes so much further than your verbal communication. The reason I say I agree with that, hey, Decadent Noob, is because it's hard to mask a look on your face. It's hard to, change the expression on your face when you're feeling a certain way. When you're angry, it's hard to smile through anger. And I'm sure what, you've seen or experienced being frustrated or upset in a setting where it wasn't necessarily kosher for you to show that on your face. And isn't it hard? Isn't it hard for you to sit there upset with a smile? You're like, it's so forced, and you're communicating a forced smile. I think a lot of times at work we do that. We're sitting through a meeting and, we're just like, so that is a non-verbal way that we communicate. Our facial expressions, our body language. You guys know, it's just the way you stand, the way you sit, the way you lean. We hear a lot right now about lean in. You hear the expression lean in, and that comes from our body language. That comes from, when someone leans in, when you're speaking to someone and they lean in to learn, it's because they want to know more. They're interested, they're engaged, they want to know what's going on, what you're going to say next. So body language, when you're leaning in, you're expressing a desire to know more, right? So leaning in, looking at someone, making eye contact, all of those are so important when we're communicating with our body. And we talked yesterday about sometimes we talk too much and sometimes we don't talk enough. And, depending on whatever side of the spectrum you're on, your body has a lot to do with that as well. Your hand gestures, your facial expressions, your body, the way you sit, stand, what have you, they have a lot to play in that as well. So make sure that when you are with your spouse, with your significant, that you are aware of your body language, aware of your posture. When you're sitting like this, you don't really look too interested. When you're, just be mindful. And we all know what it looks like not to be interested. You know what it feels like to talk to somebody and they're just sitting or looking like they couldn't care less about what you're saying. We know how that feels. So make sure that we are presenting ourselves in a way that shows we care, we're interested, and we want to know more, even if we don't. Even if we don't necessarily want to know more at that particular moment, it's important that we let our spouses know in our body language that we still that we care. We may not want to know more about whatever it is they're talking about right now. Maybe they're talking about the Seattle Seahawks and you don't really care about that right now. It's still important to act like, to show that you are interested in what your husband or what your spouse is interested in. Hey, Candy Shop, thanks for joining. So again, body language, super huge. And of course, what we say, our words are super huge. Hey, Nikki, thanks for joining. I am someone that is big on words, big on verbal communication. And I shared with you guys before, hey, LaShonda, about my issues with, and my husband and I, how we've had issues with communication and verbal communication. Earlier on in our marriage, I would express to him that when he would say certain things, hey, Ambassador Moore, it would make me feel a certain way because of his choice of words. And so, you know, he's learned that about me. Sorry, I'm late. Hey, you're never late. Just come in when you come in. So he knows that about me now. He's learned that about me now. And so I can see when we're having a discussion. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Pause. You guys, if you're new to Periscope, there's a guy down here you can tap to share what we're talking about today. And then you can also tap on the screen to show hearts. That's kind of like your offering plate. Tap the hearts. Give me some offerings. So, okay, back in. But yes, so my husband and I, we've had to work on verbal communication because for me, like words are super important because I am careful about the words that I use when I'm talking to someone. So we've had to grow through that. I've had to tell him, but like I'm saying, it came from me telling him, like, babe, don't, can you say it a little differently? Or, you know, and he'll notice, like if he says something that doesn't hit me so great, he'll notice it on my face. He'll see my reaction and he'll recant his statement, or he'll, you know, come at me a little bit different later. But so for me, communication and the word selection is big. So again, we operate on two levels of communication, nonverbal and verbal, and we should always be aware of how we are communicating in both of those levels. The next thing is that communication is irreversible. You know, so we have to think before we speak. When we're saying things to someone, especially someone that we love deeply, we care about, we have to understand that once you put it out there, once you say it, there's no taking it back. There's no, even if you were to say, oh, I didn't mean that. Come on now. You know, and we all know that we've said things that we didn't mean to say, but not that we didn't mean. You got it? So we tend to say things, yes, we slow to speak and quick to listen. Exactly. We tend to say things sometimes when we're not aware of our, you know, of how we're communicating. We tend to say things that we don't mean to say, but we do mean what we've said, if you know what I mean, if you get what I'm saying. So being aware of what we're saying, because we can't take it back. Even when we say, oh, I didn't mean that. And that's especially true when it comes to exaggerating things or lying. You know, you're saying things and you can't take them back. Once you've put it out there, it's too late. You know, the person that you're talking to is already taken in what you've said and they've digested it, and now they have, you know, a certain process that's going on in their heads about you. And it's hard, especially when what you're saying is very emotionally driven. Yeah, your words are powerful, either to build or destroy. Right? There's power in the tongue, you guys. But you know, when you're emotionally excited about something, whether it's happy or sad, you tend to say things without thinking, and you tend to say things that you really do feel. You're speaking from a point of your feelings as opposed to, you know, what sounds politically correct or what, you know, sounds best. You say what you feel, and sometimes the things that we say hurt the people we love. The ripple effect of your words flow into all areas of the relationship. Yes, they absolutely do. So again, if you're not mindful of the things that you say, you begin to talk in patterns sometimes, and you know, the person that you're speaking to, your spouse, for instance, will start to ignore some of the things that you say. So if you're a person that tends to say, you always, you know, forget to wash the dishes. You always forget to fill up the car. You always, if you are someone that consistently starts your conversations with your spouse or your husband in that way, where you are, you know, kind of sort of attacking, then your spouse, the person that you're talking to, is going to turn off. They're not going to listen anymore. You know, so, and you can't take that back. Once you get into that pattern of just talking that way, it's hard to take that back, but you have to retrain yourself so that you're, you know, making sure that you're approaching your spouse, your loved one in the right way. Come correct, as they say. The always, never, all the time words is the best way to start an argument. Yeah. Whenever you do those, universal statements, like you always, or I never, or, those things, you're headed for trouble, guys. Steer clear of those. Steer clear of those if you can. So communication is irreversible. Be careful about what you say. Even if you're making jokes, guys, be careful about what you say. And I think sometimes those are the things that we say that are, we really mean them, but we try to act like we don't. We call them jokes. You know, oh, it was just a joke. I didn't mean that you need to lose weight. I didn't mean that your breath stinks, you know. We say things and we call them jokes, but we really mean them. And to the person that we've said them to, they take them to heart. So again, we can't take that back. We can't take the things that we say back. They're irreversible. The next thing, the third key, is that communication is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process, just as you have to feed yourself every day. You know, just as you have to sleep, you know, it's an ongoing process. And when you think about it, if you don't eat, how do you feel? You don't have any energy, you're tired, you're cranky, you have an attitude. If you are not exercising, how do you feel? You know, your body might start to ache. You might start to have pains that you didn't used to have. It's harder for you to lift things. You just have a lack of energy. You know, so all of those, when you're not doing your due diligence in those areas, eating and exercise and, you know, getting enough sleep, you're cranky. Your body starts to show the results. There are consequences to not doing those things consistently. The same is true for communication, you guys. If we're not continuing to have an open line of communication with our spouses and our loved ones, then we're causing our relationships to fail. It may not be something that you see immediately, but little by little, you'll see you will withdraw and your spouse will withdraw. And before you know it, you'll be in that roommate trap that we talked about. You know, you guys are just kind of coming and going. You live together, but you're just kind of coming and going. How long have you been married? I've been married almost 10 years. So I know a little something. How long have you been married, Ambassador Moore? You seem like you're very wise and knowing. Okay, so communication is an ongoing process. You can never stop communicating. 7 years, cool. Congratulations, I got 3 years on you, almost 3 years. But communication is an ongoing process, and even going back to verbal and nonverbal communication. Yay, LaShonda, 10 years in 2 months. Congratulations. Even if you think you're not communicating, you are communicating through your body, through your actions, and through not communicating. Yesterday, we talked about not saying enough in relationships. You know, we talked about one party that maybe talks too much and the other party that doesn't talk enough. And we talked about the consequences of that being trust, a lack of trust. You know, if you're one that doesn't talk enough, your spouse will begin to have some trust issues because you're not openly communicating, you're not sharing, you're not giving anything to the relationship in that regard. Almost 2.5 years, but learning a lot. All right, Nick. You're smart, though, because you know, we've talked. You're doing some good things. So communication is an ongoing process, and even if you think that you're not communicating, you are through your body. So be aware, because at all times you're communicating, you guys. I mean, unless you're asleep, but at all times, when are you not communicating besides when you're asleep? Or maybe when you're eating. When are you not communicating? When you're sitting at your desk at work and you're drumming your fingers, you're communicating that you're bored or you need more work to do. When you are rubbing your belly or, you know, kind of just stretching or yawning, you know, you're communicating that you're tired. So you're always communicating something. So we need to be aware of what we're communicating, especially in our relationships, and make sure that what we're communicating is what we intend to communicate. So that was the third thing. Communication is an ongoing process. And then the fourth thing is that it's kind of along the lines of the third thing, that you cannot not communicate. The eyes rolling, the silence, yes, all of that is communication.